Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the TAPS Track and Field webinar. My name is John Skees. I'm the Director of Media at TAPS. Joining me today is Robert Huckabee, our Athletic Director and Director of Compliance, and Brian Bunselmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director. This session is being recorded, so you'll be able to look at the recording through an email that's going to be sent to you after the webinar. We're also going to put it on our YouTube account. So anybody at your school who needs to get this information but can't join us today can see it. If you have any questions during the webinar, use that questions box in your GoToWebinar control panel. We're going to keep an eye on that as we go through the session, and we will answer all of those questions either during the session or at the end. We do have a question and answer part at the end. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian.
Appreciate you joining us for our third webinar of the day, trying to disseminate a little information and make sure that all districts hear the same thing. Seems like here in the office, after 13 years, we get the same calls from the same districts. We've just failed to get probably a lot of that information out in a concise manner. So we do appreciate everyone joining us here today. We appreciate you hosting your district track meet. And we appreciate you being part of TAPS. So as we go forward, first thing we're going to hit on is the governing rules. So the governing rules of TAPS and TAPS track, as a reminder, TAPS has rules that govern the eligibility. Your students must be in rank 1. They must be on your track team, on your roster, in order to be eligible to participate in track, as well as be able to go through the entry portal. We're also governed by the NFHS, the National Federation of State High School Associations, track rules. So make sure you have a copy of the if you're the host, make sure you have a copy of the 2020 rule book, either digitally or the old way, which is paper, which I carry. Robert and Steve kind of have a tendency to use the digital format here in the office. A couple of the rules as district hosts that you do need to be aware of. We are going to use the positive check-in, positive compliance for pole vault. So that pole vault certification form will be in the coaches toolkit in rank 1. So all coaches, if you're hosting the district meet, any school that has pole vaulters should also have that form to turn into you when they turn in their fees, etc. Another rule that continues can come into play here are implements. You do need to do a visual. If you're not weighing, you at least need to do a visual inspection of your shot and disc and disqualify those at state. At the district level, so they don't get to region, they don't get to state. We did have to disqualify quite a few at the regional round. Comment was made or overheard that the district said, well, go ahead and use them today. As a reminder, students can throw any shot or disc in the pool. If theirs doesn't qualify, they still have the opportunity to use any pool implement. And the last thing I'm going to cover under the rules that you need to go back and read, not only for your own students, but for those coming to your meet, would be the uniform rules. Most importantly, or the one that seems to be violated or stretched, so to speak, would be the spandex, which would be the bodysuit or the closed leg briefs. Closed leg briefs and bodysuits are allowed in TAPS competition as long as you have modesty shorts over the top. So the modesty shorts kind of overcome whatever perceived benefit would be in the bodysuit or in the closed leg brief. So especially for the young ladies wearing the volleyball styled shorts, those closed leg briefs are not allowed. And you get one warning, and then that can lead to disqualification from the meet. So make sure you cover that with the coaches that are coming, not only your own runners, but also those that are coming, to make sure that they know what uniform possibilities are and aren't. And I'm going to let Robert speak a little bit more to the rules now.
The TAPS rules for track and field specific to our organization are contained in the bylaws in section 186 and 187. So you can always go to the governance tab on the TAPS website. You can scroll down to 186 and 187. The track rules specific to TAPS are there. If you ever have any questions about those, that you don't see a particular situation that might apply, or you have a question about the rule as it's written, always reach out to us. You can call us here in the office, or you can shoot us an email, info@taps.biz. We'll be glad to help walk you through that. Can't emphasize enough, if you are a district host, that you have a current copy of the NFHS track and field rules. Can't tell you how many situations we have over the years where you're at a meet, something comes up, somebody thinks they know the rule, or somebody knows the old rule, but it changed a few years ago. Have that little book in your back pocket, have it handy where you can flip to that particular section. We've even had situations in the past where we've had to pull out the rule book with officials and walk through it and make sure we were all on the same page. You're going to be determining your qualifiers that are advancing to the next level. So just make sure that you get that correct. The one that has been a frequent flyer the last few years is in the pole vault and the high jump. You get those tiebreakers that apply. It's very specific in how you apply those, and those can very easily, even by officials many times, be implemented incorrectly. If you have that book there, you can pause for a minute. You can make sure you get it right and move on. So that's a very, very great tool to have. Make sure you have it available for your meet officials and for you as the host. If any issues arise, you can address those at that time.
Along that same line, make sure that you do have a meet referee designated, and make sure that you have the appeal process, if there is such, outlined so you can tell all the coaches that attend the meeting and attend the competition exactly what that process is. I know to cut cost, a lot of times we're using the lead timer as our meet referee, or we're using someone, one of the coaches becomes the meet referee. Make sure whoever the meet referee is comfortable saying no, comfortable saying yes. Both of those come with a different connotation, because if you say no, you make one person unhappy sometimes. If you say yes, you make a lot of people unhappy. So make sure that meet referee is up to the task. It does cost money to get a good one. Make sure you follow it. I will make one more rules comment here. It's come up in the last couple of years as the National Federation rules have changed. It goes on video and review. So if you at the facility on your field events, if you are going to have a section lined out for coaches to video, make sure that that area is well marked, that the coaches know exactly what that video area is, and that review cannot slow down the competition. So in other words, if you have 8 in a flight and the coach reviews it, the next time the jumper's number or name is called, they have to be ready to go on the tarmac. So again, video review, read the section. If you've got questions, please reach out to Robert and I, Steve, whoever here at the TAPS office, info at taps.biz, B-I-Z, or 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. Track is probably one of the most complicated set of rules that we deal with once we get in the season on almost a daily basis. So highly encourage you to deal with your officials, highly encourage you to reach out to us. We'll try to walk you through the best we can. If we don't have the answer, we do have folks we can reach out to and get your answer. So moving off of the rules, we'll go to the district host responsibilities. We want to thank each of you for stepping up to be a district host. The biggest thing that I can encourage is communication. I think you have told us that's what we need to do better, and I think it goes back the other way. We all need to do better at communication. So a meeting, whether it's in person, whether it's by email or by conference call, to set the ground rules for the district meet, that is your host responsibility. Securing the facility is extremely important, and making sure you have a facility that meets your needs and your cost pattern as your coaches agree. Determine what awards you're going to give at the district level. How far are you going to pay out? 1, 2, 3, or 4 places, both individually and for the teams. The collection of fees, make sure the teams know ahead of time what the fee is, what it covers, and then how to get it to you. The other side of that is making sure that as the district host, you have made the arrangements to make sure your hosts are paid, to make sure your officials are paid, and make sure any outstanding fees for awards are paid. So as a host, you become the bank. The teams pay you, you pay everybody else, and away we go. It's also, as a district host, to make the preliminary meet schedule, which will be agreed upon by all the track coaches. Make sure everybody understands the meet schedule, why it is, if there's any changes off the norm, or what it will be. And then the last thing is, we've had several districts double up over the past couple of years where 2 districts are running at the same time. It's highly important that, again, make sure one of you takes the lead, so that if you're doubling up, one of you is making sure the officials get paid, one of you is making sure the timer gets paid, one of you is making sure that the facility get paid. Don't leave anybody out there hanging. Those calls are really hard for us here in the office, because I think it goes to professionalism each of you want, and what we're espousing as well. I'm going to let Robert talk a little bit here about the responsibilities of the district host.
Yeah, those are the main topics that you need to be aware of. Also know that if you're running a meet that's just your district and it only has a small number of schools, versus a meet where you might be combining with another district, where you'll be running, um, uh, you know, 2 sets of girl races, 2 sets of boy races. Talk ahead of time based on your district structure of how you're going to schedule the meet, and when you get to the the running portion of the meet, if you need to have breaks in there because you have a small number of participants, small number of schools, talk about that ahead of time. I know many times when you double up and combine and run two different districts in the same meet, it does help kind of spread the meet out a little bit, and you end up with that rest you need between some of the events. But if that's not the case, just talk about that ahead of time and make sure you've scheduled and paced the meet in a way that's fair to all the schools and all the athletes who are competing.
Additionally, along that line, and as it crosses my mind, as you get to the running events, in most of the district meets I was ever associated with, we did not spend the money to have enough officials to go judge the curves and judge the exchanges. Know that the curves and exchanges will be judged at regional and state. Make sure your runners are prepared for that. But at the district level, if you're assigning curves or exchange zones, make sure that whoever is assigned feels comfortable doing that task. Everybody needs to do their share, but if you're assigned and you've never judged the 4x2, or you never looked at the exchange zones in a 4x1 and are not current with the current rules, make sure that that's gone over very well with whoever's judging those lanes and exchange zones. I can't tell you how much anxiety has always been there, because at that point you're assigning somebody to potentially disqualify their own students. So it's a hard thing to do.
And there were a couple of rule changes this past year with the NFHS in track and field. And I'll note those just quickly. I won't quote them to you. You can go look them up. One does have to do with the exchange zone. The rumor that was floating around last year that there were going to be changes to the exchange zones did not go into effect last year. That does go into effect this year. So look at that and make sure you understand that exchange zone area has changed from what it was in the past. What some people knew that was being discussed last year has now been enacted. It was enacted a few months ago by the NFHS. So go look at those rules, look at those changes. Another rule change that's been made for safety purposes that you need to be aware of is that when you get to the long and triple jump, they're no longer allowing runners to start at the board and run back toward the start on the track. They're not allowing that anymore for safety purposes. So I know a lot of you in the past taught it this way or coached it this way, or you get athletes to a meet and you go down to the board, you put your foot on the board and you run your steps back and somebody stands there and marks your mark. That is not going to be allowed under the change to the rule. So as you move into track season and prepare for meets, just know that those are two pretty significant changes to the rules that you need to be aware of. We'll get information out on those specifically on the track page of the TAPS website, so you'll have that available and you can circulate that around to everybody in your district and those that you might run across in meets throughout the season.
Along those same lines, that's why it's just so highly important to have a meet referee and your meet officials that it can explain the exchange zones, that can exchange to what we're in a very clear, concise manner to both the runners and the coaches. So again, having the meet officials is extremely important that can walk you through. Meet fees, make sure that your meet fees are designed to cover the cost of the facility, the cost of the officials, hospitality, if any, and awards. I mean, it seems so simple, but you don't want to leave somebody hanging. And then you need to make sure how you are going to determine, are you going to do that by entry? Or are you going to do it by runner? Or are you going to do it by school? Make sure everybody's in agreement. No one should bear too much of a burden, but at the same time, everybody should bear the burden equally as the district determines it. So meet fees are left to the district to make sure you cover all costs. The next slide is maybe a little cumbersome. If we've got questions on it at the end or questions now, we'll be glad to take those. Entries, I'm going to let Robert talk about the basic rules of entries, and then we'll get into how we're doing it and what we're doing.
So remember, in track, an individual has a maximum of 5 events. You can only enter an individual in a maximum of 5 events in the track meet. So you could have 5 field events. You could have all 5 of those be field events, but you can only have a maximum of 3 running events. So you can have some combination of 5. It can be all 5 field, knowing that there's a maximum of 3 running events, and that does include relays. Another entry thing that has come up in years past, we changed this rule several years ago. You can enter a runner in the 800, the 1600, and the 3200 if you choose to. Make sure you know schedule-wise how that's going to work out for your athlete and that they can do that. if they can, that's great.
Robert kind of gave you the maximums as TAPS has had for many years. This is 23 years for me. It's been there every year. Is the fair effort rule. There's a lot of confusion about it, but the fair effort rule is in place. It is written in the track rules and the bylaws that you can go read. The basic of it is this: once you are entered into the finals, if you withdraw from that event, then you're not eligible to compete after that event. So if you're scheduled to run in the 800 and it's a finals event and you're withdrawn from that event, you no show, or for whatever reason you are not on the track when that event begins, you cannot compete in the rest of the event. So the fair effort rule does not apply to prelims. If you withdraw from a prelim, if you're doing long jump in the morning at your meet and there's a prelim and you withdraw from the prelim round, then you would not be penalized under the fair effort rule. However, let's say you're in the high jump, there's only 6 people entered, and that is a finals event, and it is in the morning, and you are withdrawn from that event. You no show, you don't get there on time, you overslept, you're sick in the trailer, whatever, then you would not be able to compete in the rest of the event. Is that correct, Robert? Is that, you have a simpler way of saying it?
No, it's literally go to the TAPS rules, look at the fair effort rule. It's written there as concisely and clearly as we can write it. And that's another thing you need to have with you. Take 186 and 187, make a copy of them, take them with you to your meet, because those are just as important as the NFHS rules. And just read through that carefully. Make sure you know if we're talking about a prelim or a final, and then make sure you know if something happens to that athlete and they have to scratch out of a final event, then they cannot compete. They're ineligible to compete for the rest of the meet.
So make sure as you set your entry deadlines and as you get ready to go through your meet that everybody takes a deep breath, especially as a district host. Remind your schools that the fair effort rule is there. If they want to withdraw them ahead of time, we can sure try to make that happen. Your entries right now are scheduled to be made in rank 1. More information on that will follow with a step-by-step file. The meet file will be created by TAPS. That meet file will be then sent to the district host and to the timer. The high-tech full backup will go to them with instructions. So once you determine who your timer is going to be for the meet, when you get the request from us for information, make sure you include that timer's contact information so that Becky can reach out to that timer direct and they can walk through any problems. I would also say to make sure that you're looking at your TAPS track codes. Those are listed on the TAPS website under the TAPS page. So you go to taps.biz, click on athletics, click on track. Somewhere at the top, it's going to be codes. Make sure that your track code is what you've been using. That way we're in a good place. We've had several different variances on when from advancing from district to state, district to region. So I'm going to let Robert talk about the scratch deadline for moving on while we're here on entry. So the scratch deadline from once your students have qualified from district to region or region to state, Robert, what's the rule going to be on this year?
What we're going to do at the district level, once your district meet is over, you will have 48 hours to make any changes or scratches you need to make before the fair effort rule is going into effect for the next level meet. So if you're at your district meet's completed, you're going to have 48 hours to make any changes, scratches. You obviously, if you qualify as a relay, you can make changes to your relay. We will have those forms for you available on the website, on the track page, and you'll be able to get that done. We have at times in the past said the minute your meet's over, the fair effort rule's in effect. In fairness to everybody, things can happen. You look at your results, you look at your relays, and you may need to make changes. So at the district level, we're giving everyone 48 hours after the conclusion of your district meet. Those forms will be available on the website for you to make those changes. Now, from the regional meets to the state meet, all the regional meets are going to be either on that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday that's noted on the calendar and on the track page, depending on what classification you are. We'll have all those time results. And then by the following Monday, the Monday following all the regional meets, we'll have a form available for changes there. And you'll need to make those changes between the regional and the state meet by that Monday. Those forms will be available as well.
Robert mentioned Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Our inability to get officials on the UIL Regional Track Meet Day, which is Saturday, has caused a lot of problems for us for the past 2 or 3 years of regional competition. The executive board, once we presented the solution set that we had, which were very limited, so we've now changed the order and we've changed the days for most of the regional track meets. So if you haven't gone to the track page, if you haven't gone to the calendar, 1A, 2A are now competing on Wednesday, 3A, 4A are competing on Thursday, and 5A, 6A are competing on Friday. So that's the, from what I remember, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. So I'll repeat that again. 1A, 2A's regional meet, which will be on April 22nd. April 23rd is the 3A, 4A, and the 5A, 6A will be on April 24th. So the biggest reason for change, and if the request is made from administration or just give information, we were no longer able to get the officials that we needed to run the track meets on Saturday. It was a request, and so we did move. As we go forward for reporting results, the results, I need for all the district hosts to maintain the hard copy sheets from the field events. Those should be maintain those, and then when you get to the state track meet, or the regional track meet, either way, at the regional meet, just drop those off for us. So maintain your hard sheets that were on the clipboards out the field events, so we've got a hard copy record of what they saw, and it goes back to Robert's tie-breaking discussion if we need to do that. The biggest thing that is going to go on as you go forward is, of course, add drops or changes to relays, etc., after the reports are come back to us. Your timer will send a full high-tech backup to the TAPS office and to Becky, and then we will create the regional files from there. If your district wishes to post things on athletic.net, that is totally up to the district's discretion as to where and when. TAPS will post the district results once all districts are in. So once all district results are, so we have 4 districts. Once all 4 district results are in for 3A or 4A, we will then post those to the web. So you'll have an idea in advance. So once we get them all, then we'll post them. Again, your timer will send your high-tech results full backup back to the office, and then we will create the regional meets. Robert's going to talk about the awards that we're doing and then how that's plays down to the district level.
Points for each event goes to 8 places, and that schedule of those points is what it's traditionally been. That's posted in the TAPS rules. That'll be the same at regional and state. We'll do points to 8 places. As far as awards at a district, that's up to you how you want to do that based on number of schools and participants, and certainly what the cost of that is. You can do medals, you can do ribbons out to 8 places. You can handle that any way you want. That's up to you. Just make sure everybody's in the equation in that discussion and that you've agreed ahead of time. Yes, we want to do these awards. We understand the cost is going to be this, and everybody's on board with that. As far as regional, the top 4 from regional will advance to state, and we will be giving awards at regional just like we have in the past. Those will be included. That'll be for the top 4, those who are advancing to state, and those will be in your packet, and they'll be stuffed as the events are completed and the results are published, and then you'll be able to pick those up at the end of the meet.
So we're going to move on to regional qualifiers. As we have posted here, this is also posted in section 141 of the TAPS bylaws, which is available on the governance tab. So I'm going to let Robert look off. You will see that 5A is in yellow. There are a couple of appeals ongoing for 5A. So 5A, this is what you are right now. That may change. So if you're a 5A district, keep that in mind. That may change, but we'll notify you shortly. Robert's going to speak to the other.
In 1A, you'll go straight to regional. That's consistent with what we've done in the past. We will be producing a format. Your 1A is going to be on that Wednesday, whether you're in the north or the south. 1A and 2A are combined. So 1A, you'll be going straight to regional. We'll have your process for entries just like we have in the past. And then we will have some prelims on the morning of that first day, Wednesday. Any prelims that we need in a handful of field events and then a small number of running events we'll have on that morning. And then we'll have 1A, 2A combined for the rest of the meet. For 2A, District 1 and 2, you have 4 each that are going from your district to your regional. and then District 3 and 4 the same. You have 4 qualifiers that are going from your district to your regional meet. In 3A, same thing, Districts 1, 2, 3, and 4. Each of you have 4 that are advancing to the regional meet, either in the north or the south, depending on which region you're in. 4A, identical. You'll have 4 advancing from your district to regional meet in all 4 of your districts in 4A. As Brian mentioned, there may be some changes to 5A. Our executive board is reviewing a couple of proposals as we speak. That information will be coming out no later than the end of this week. There were some changes to one of the districts in terms of losing a couple of schools that may affect some reshuffling of 1 or 2 districts up in the north. If that happens, it could stay as it is. But if a change occurs, then there may be a change to the number of qualifiers. If so, that'll be published and available to everyone. The South, there were no changes there. We don't envision any change there. And then in 6A, you qualify 1, 2, 3, and 4, 4, 4, 3, and 5 respectively. And remember, at our regional meets, the North and the South will each advance 4 from regional to state for all competitions.
So as we move to the regional track meets, a reminder that those dates have changed. Please go on www.taps.biz, go to the calendar, scroll over, make sure you've got the right dates. Additionally, information being fluid, make sure that you go to www.taps.biz, B-I-Z, click on athletics, click on track, because that right-hand side where it says track and field blog, any email or rank 1 push that we send out will also be updated in that area. So, Robert, where's regional track going to be right now as far as we know?
As far as we know, the North is going to be at Burleson High School. We were there a few years ago. They've done some remodeling and construction there. It's a great facility. We think that's going to work well for everyone in the North. And currently, the South, we're scheduled to return to Bastrop.
We also have a fun IndyCar race at COTA, so we are aware of that in case anyone is wondering, do we know? Yes, we know. We continue to look for other alternative sites. We've looked both in San Antonio and Austin area. We've also looked in the Houston area. So right now, plan on Bastrop, and then we will see how much farther that takes us out. We will notify you as soon as possible if there's a change. But for right now, Burleson in the north and Bastrop in the south. Your regional entries will be coming from the high-tech file that's submitted. You will have the form online. As Robert said, you'll have up to 48 hours after your meet to make any changes, relay changes, or scratches. So your regional entries, all you're responsible for, and all your schools will be responsible for after they leave the meet, will be those scratches or relay changes as they see fit. Make sure on, again, the fees that we have at district, I can't say enough, just make sure that your fees cover your cost and that your costs are paid for before you leave. So championship qualifiers, Robert went over that a little bit. Just make sure that out of each region, we're going 4 and 4, 4 from the north, 4 from the south, to show up down in that state. There has been a question both from district to regional and regional to state. If the other district or if the other region doesn't fill the number of qualifiers, can a district that has more fill? That has also been, we've done it both ways. We've done it where if we had 2 from the east and 4 from the west, we've only gone with 6. And then we've gone where we backfilled. We took the 2 from the east and then we allowed 6 from the west. So that again is before the board for their review. Last year we did allow it to fill. We're in the second year of the biennium realignment. Robert, I don't know that I see a change at this point.
I think it'll stay like it was last year. That was reviewed by the AEC and the executive board last year, and the changes that were made last year, allowing fills from another district or another region, if yours did not qualify, the total number that could advance, that should, and we envision that will stay the same for this year. Any changes to that would be viewed in the future, and we would look at that on an alignment 2-year basis.
And again, Robert, that's from district to regional and regional to state, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, we're going to move forward in the track championships. So, Robert, tell us what we need to know about track championships.
What we need to know is we're going to be back at Midway High School. You guys can be praying for good weather. We've had 2 years there. It's a great facility. They're wonderful people. We've struggled with rain tremendously on our Friday field event day, and we've had to make changes. We've we've kind of done it two different ways. It worked out okay for what we were left to deal with, but we keep saying here in the office we'd like to see what track at Midway was like if we had a normal Friday and a normal Saturday. So that's our prayer here, that we're hoping for great weather. We will have the coaches meeting on Thursday, just like we always do. We'll have information out on that. That will be on that Thursday, April the 30th. We will meet again like we have in the past. Last year, we spent most of the meeting talking about weather, but that was what was on the forefront at that time. And then Friday, we'll have our field event schedule along with the 3200. We're going to be publishing a field event schedule. One of the things that we're looking at doing on field event day is having a definitive schedule of the start of each event versus a rolling schedule. With pole vault and high jump, the nature of those two events seem to wreak havoc on our rolling schedule because they get behind what we intend to be the schedule for those athletes that are in multiple events. So we're going to try on Friday a field event schedule like we've done in the past, where you'll have a specific time, say an 8:30 time for the long jump or the triple jump in your classification. Then the next round of field events wouldn't start until about an hour and a half later, 10 o'clock. So we'll be publishing that schedule, but we're going to try that. I know our meet officials, they're very good, but they are used to rolling schedules. They love rolling schedules, and that just gets us off kilter a little bit with some of our athletes who are trying to bounce back and forth. Our Saturday running schedule will stay like it has been in the past.
So Saturday will be a rolling start, and the regional meets will be a rolling start as best we can. Trying to get those regional meets in a day, we need to move through as best we can. One quick note, Robert and I were talking about earlier, the regional pole vault and high jump. So if your athletes qualify for the region and they were to win the region, they will get 3 attempts at one height that they're choosing. So once final placement is determined, once the champion is determined, they will then set the bar at whatever height they want. They'll have their 3 attempts to clear that, but we won't keep stair stepping after a champion is determined. So just kind of keep that in mind. We used that a little bit last year, but I think at the regional level that will help to get the pole vault and the high jump in line as time-wise as far as we go. We're looking at the track championships. We're excited. We did look at several different places. We've been to Bryan College Station. We've been to Austin. We've been to San Antonio. We've been several places. We have a great meet. It's a great big meet, and the requirements of it, and obviously we've looked back at going at Baylor, but to this point that has not been allowed. One question we had is, can the meet referee be the same person as the meet director? And of course that can be the same if you so desire. The biggest thing that Robert and I could say is who's ever going to be in charge of making the yes-no decision needs to be fully confident in making that decision, both from the rule education-wise, but also being able to stand behind that decision as we go. The more officials, the better off we are. We'll open the floor to questions. I'm going to let John follow up with a little bit here. If we have no more questions, we really appreciate you joining us here today. As always, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. Kind of sounds like BR 5409 or whatever from the old hee-haw days, but we're still here. We try to do it right. And then www.taps.biz is the website. info@taps.biz is the email.
I think we've answered. Oh, wait, we just got a new question. Let's see. Have you received an appeal for 5A South region in terms of qualifying for regionals?
That was discussed last year. We have that on the table with the executive board for all of 5A to look at the present time. No decision has been made. As Robert said, we'll be announcing any change, if there is one, to 5A by Friday of this week. Thanks for that question.
I'll give it a couple of minutes to see if anybody else has some other questions for us. In the meantime, if your team or your school is on social media, on Twitter at all, we have a dedicated Twitter account for track and field events. It's called Taps Track. If you follow that, that's where we're going to be putting links to our video broadcasts, for our photos of the event, weather announcements, anything like that. That's a great resource, especially for parents or anybody attending the events. That's our most real-time, up-to-date thing when state or regionals is going on. I don't see any other questions. Once again, the recording of this webinar is going to be on our YouTube page, and it's going to be emailed back to you. I'm going to leave it with Brian to sign us off.
Again, we appreciate you joining us here today. Thank you for the questions. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this opportunity as a district track host, making the opportunities present themselves. We know that weather is a problem, and we know that conflicts are a problem. The spring schedule, every time we look at April and May, it's just one thing on top of another. If you run into conflicts as a meet host, the earlier you hear about them from your coaches that are coming, the earlier we can hear about them and help you. If weather does seem to be imminent and you have a problem, we need to make a delay or a change, let's talk about that up front. So as soon as you've had your district meetings, as soon as you start making your plans, please reach out to us. If you've got any problems at all, let us know. We're here to help. We appreciate you greatly. Thank you for joining us here on the TAPS Track webinar, and we look forward to seeing y'all soon at one of the events, whether it be swim, wrestling, basketball, soccer, or when we get to track, we'll see you there as well. Thank you for joining us here today.